All right, Mommy Net.
Yes.
Okay. All right, tell me your full name.
Jeanette Marie Elizabeth Arch Dowling Freer.
Oh, that's a lot of names. Okay, and tell me about where were you born? What city were you born
I was
in?
born in Little Rock, Arkansas. Mother and Dad were down in the valley because he was in the produce business at the time, working for a company out of St. Louis, and they were shipping fruit to St. Louis. And Mother went back to Arkansas on the train to have me. And when I was 6 weeks old, she went back to the valley. So really, I'm almost a Texan.
Almost a Texan.
Yes.
What do you know about, I'm going to shut the door. What do you know about your parents and their parents and that sort of thing?
Well, I don't know a lot about my parents and their parents, and the great-grandparents are just unknown. Dad was born in Holland, and they moved to the States. They immigrated to the States when he was about a year old. So when the war came along, they did not inquire where he had been born, and he joined the Army, and they were happy to have him, the First World War. So it didn't make any difference where he was born. But he grew up here in Arkansas, and my mother's father and mother were both born in Germany. And my grandmother's father was an architect, which may have something to do with Mike being an architect.
There you go.
He certainly had the talent for it. And grandmother's had a marvelous mind. She could multiply 3 figures by 3 figures in her head.
Wow.
I was never good at math, so that really amazed me. And still I'm not good at math, but then now we have computers. So they lived in Arkansas too. And my parents met in Arkansas. And my father must have been a dashing somebody. I've seen a picture of him when he was at boarding school at Subiaco, Arkansas. And way ahead of his time, he had on a black t-shirt with a turtleneck and curly blonde hair. So he must have been really quite a figure. And he owned a motorcycle. And would you believe that my mother went riding on that motorcycle? They married when she was 20. And he was 7 years older than she was.
Okay.
And Joe's family was very different. They immigrated to Brooklyn from Ireland, and Dad Dowling had a number of brothers, and one was a judge, and one was, we were told never to lend him money that he wouldn't pay it back. So it was quite a wide variety of people. And Mother Dowling had a lot of sisters, and she was a farmer's daughter in Ohio. And he had graduated from Cornell at 21, and of course got a job. And he was doing survey work in Ohio and met her. And as I say, she was a farmer's daughter, and he thought she was the most beautiful human that ever lived. Her name was Delta Mary Angelo Clipper. That's quite a name.
Yeah.
We named our first son, Michael Cooper Dowling. At any rate, Joe and I met in Carpus. He had been working in Houston, and his company moved to Carpus. And we had some mutual friends who worked in the Nixon building, and I was introduced to him. And of course, I was absolutely taken immediately. I thought he was just darling. I was 17, and I met him at a party. He had been dating the girl who hosted the party, and she never spoke to me again. He called me that week for a date, and in 2 weeks he asked me to marry him. And we planned the date then and there, and that's why we got married on a Tuesday morning, January 25th, 1939.
You got married on a Tuesday?
We got married. Nobody gets married on a Tuesday, but that was the anniversary of our first date, so that was it.
There you go.
And we were happily married for 60 years and 3 days when he died of cancer. But Joe was a really good-looking young man. I thought he was just really handsome, and he was.
Okay, and he was an accountant?
And he was an accountant working for Republic Natural Gas Company, the first real job he'd ever had. He went to St. Edward's University, came home and decided he was through with school and went to a business college, and then got a job with Republic Natural Gas Company and stayed with them, oh heavens, almost all his life. So I think he had 2 other jobs, and that was it.
And so tell me, he had a bunch of sisters. I remember you telling me something about the sisters checking you out.
Oh, did they ever? Joe had 6 sisters and 2 brothers. The 2 brothers, and most of the, well, he was the second to youngest. And when he wrote home to his family in Houston that he had met someone that he wanted to marry, he immediately got a call to meet him in San Antonio the next Sunday. So Joe and I borrowed Mother's car and drove up to San Antonio, and I begged him to let me off at the outskirts of San Antonio, and I would stay and have lunch someplace and he could go see them. And we got to the hotel where we were to meet them and have lunch. His mother, his father, his oldest sister, her 2 children, and his youngest sister were there to inspect me. At 17, I was horrified. I really was just struck dumb. But Delta Harlan, the older sister's child, was 5. She had lots of freckles, golden blonde hair with kind of a reddish tint in braids, and the biggest blue eyes you've ever seen. And would you believe that we remained good friends until she died last year?
Wow.
So she used to come see us in Dallas when we were there. The company that Joe worked for was transferred to Dallas, and we lived there for 25 years before it was sold, and that's how we moved back to Houston. The company was sold to another company, and everybody, well, a great many of the people were moved to Houston.
So you guys lived in Dallas for 25 years?
Yeah.
I guess I didn't know that.
Yes.
So my dad
all the kids were born
all
there.
the kids were born in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so my dad was born in 1949. So when did you move to Houston?
We moved in 62.
Okay.
We moved to Dallas in 39 because Joe had been up there for 6 months already with the company.
Okay.
And then in 1962 we were transferred to Houston. And several years later, Joe changed jobs. You know, buyouts never are really good. Not for all the employees.
Right.
Anyhow. So he was very happily employed with, let's see, it was Grove, M&J Valve Company. And it was owned by the Groves. And they were wonderful to us.
So when you moved from Dallas to Houston, did you move to Huntingwick?
We moved on Huntingwick.
But the other house?
At the other house. We built 2 houses on Huntingwick.
Okay.
We built one and then we built another one and we corrected all the faults of the first one.
Oh.
But it was a nice place to live and we just loved it. It was not very built up when we moved out there. Now it's crowded. But it was fun.
Yeah.
And I loved Houston. The first time Joe was in the hospital, I was amazed. In Dallas, we had no relatives at all. And if anybody was sick or anybody was in the hospital, we were alone. And I went out to the hospital to be with Joe, and all of a sudden, 3 of his sisters were there to stay with us and check on things and do things for us. We got along famously.
That's great.
All my friends in Dallas said I was an idiot to move any place where I'd have 6 sister-in-laws. But it worked out really well.
It did.
So where are we?
Okay, so let's see. All right, so you told me about now, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
None.
You're an only child.
I was an only child.
Okay. Do you know why? Because people used to have a lot of kids.
I would have had a brother or sister, but mother had a miscarriage and never had any more.
That was it.
That was it.
So wow.
And they traveled all the time, so maybe it was a good thing.
So you were able to marry into a family and get all the brothers and sisters you could ever
Yes.
want.
And of all those 9 children of the Dowling family, I'm the only one left. Everybody had spouses, and all of them, all 9 are gone, and I'm the only spouse left out of the 9.
Wow.
Joe's youngest sister was 3 years older than I am,
Okay.
and she died years before Joe did.
All right. Do you have any specific memories about your mom or dad? Any funny stories about anything you remember specifically with them that they did or said, or
Well,
any
when I was
vacations or?
When I was a little girl, I was very put out with some other child, and I told Dad she was a mess. And he never called me another name as long as he lived. Thereafter, I was called Mess, the only
Mess.
nickname I ever had. And he was the only one that used it.
So you gave yourself your own nickname.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he called me Mess forevermore. And Rick did not want to be a grandfather. He was not old enough. So when I called him Ricky, he liked it. And he loved the kids calling him Ricky instead of Grandpa.
Grandpa.
And I never knew anybody that was quite so taken with their grandchildren.
Oh.
And he loved, when Mike was born and was a boy, I had never felt, ever, that he had wanted a boy instead of a girl. But he was so overwhelmed with having a grandson that finally I knew that he really had wanted a boy. But I had never felt it growing
Never
up,
felt well.
which was really nice.
Yes. Did you guys have any neat, like, family traditions, like that you did on holidays or anything like that? It's really on the
Oh, we
spot,
always
but-
had a tree, and of course I was so gullible, I was happy to believe in Santa Claus, because when you don't believe anymore, everything falls through.
Mm-hmm.
You have a conscience, and you can't ask for the moon. And the Easter Bunny goes down the drain. So I held on fast as long as I could.
Good, yeah.
And we always celebrated Christmas. And I remember one Christmas we were at Aunt Katie's in Little Rock, and they had a tree and they had real candles on it. And I have those candles and the candle holders for the tree.
Wow.
So I'm really very sentimental about things like that.
Oh, yeah, that's really neat.
Of course, they only kept them a little while because you know how dangerous it would be to have a fir tree with candles.
Candles on it.
So they were lit just for everybody to look at and then put out.
And then put out.
But there weren't lights in.
How did you do in school?
I really did very well.
Besides
I
math?
saved a report card, but it was all A's, and I showed it to my kids, and they weren't at all impressed.
So you were a good student.
However, in high school, I once had a party in deportment. It seemed that IWA was built on Leopard Street, and across the street there was a mercantile store that had beautiful clothes. And in those days, they had window displays of clothes, and they changed it twice a week. So all of us girls would go upstairs to our classrooms and hang out the window so we could see across the street and see what new fashion was in the windows. And the whole class got caught, and we had 40% taken off our deportment every time we were caught, and they changed the windows twice a week. So we got caught a couple of times.
Caught a couple times.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you were young wanting to be anything specific when you grew up?
Well, there was a time I thought I'd be a truck driver, of course. And then I decided to go to art school and be a famous painter. and I didn't do either. I met Joe when I was 17, and we got married as soon as I turned 19. We waited for me to grow up. So then I became a missus, and then I became a mother, and we've had Chicky all our lives.
So tell me about your art, because did your mother or your father, were they gifted in that area?
No.
Did you inherit it?
No, my mother was a marvelous person. She had the theory that if you want something done, do it. She was extremely capable, and I think if she had had the education, she could have run the United States with one hand tied behind her. No matter what came up, she did it. When they opened a business in Little Rock for a time, she took bookkeeping so she could keep books. That was unheard of in those days. After Rick died, she was advised to sell the ranch immediately because a lady could not run a ranch. She not only ran the ranch for a year, but she ran it at a profit.
Wow.
Yes.
That's really cool. So
she went down to Carpus and took care of the apartments. If the Venetian blinds needed strings, she restrung them.
She was handy and smart and
did everything.
Driven. Did it all. She was before her time.
And beside that, she came and got all 4 kids at a time, and I thought that was just exceptionally brave.
Oh,
and
yeah.
She spoiled them and made them cookies and homemade bread. In fact, at one time, they had a big sign made when she came to Dallas. Mommy Bob, please make bread. Met her at the back door.
That's so cute. So, did you ever or did you ever take any formal art lessons or classes?
Oh, yes.
And was that
when I was 12. I don't know that my teacher was so marvelous, but I certainly had a good time. And I still have a few of the things I did then.
Oh, really?
And then, after all the children were grown, I took art at night. And it was a godsend. Mother was ill in those days, and it was what kept my sanity. And I loved to paint, and I still love to paint. And if my sight weren't so bad, I would be painting all the time.
What's your favorite thing to paint?
People. The portraits. You know, I did yours and Brian's and Matt's.
Yep.
And all other grandchildren.
So, would landscapes be a close second?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
In fact, I have one finished, not finished right now, that I'm going to have to finish pretty quick or forget it.
Okay. Well, I wish I had that gift. I said, I wish I had that gift.
Have you ever tried?
Of course, I did try it at your house all the time.
Well, take a few lessons. You might find that it's all there.
I'm good enough that I can draw stuff, and you can probably tell what it is. I can get by on Pictionary, but that's about it.
Well, when I was little, say 5, 6, 7, I used to draw all the time and show it to Mother, and I'd always cry because she would know what it was. So she was so pleased when I went to school because I could put the name under it.
That's right. What was your first job? Did you have a job?
Yes, I had a job. I went to work for a young lawyer in Corpus.
And how old were you?
16.
And did you do anything after that? You met Daddy Joe.
Yeah,
there you
go. No, that's the only job I had.
Okay, so you left home when
No, I was older than 16. I was 17 or 18. And
so
then
that
I
was
married and moved to Dallas.
right.
And I didn't work up there.
Let's see, you told me about that.
But I worked after I came
Is it
down
on
here,
tape?
after everybody was in school. I substituted for spring break.